How goes it, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Patterson Properties. Today's subject matter is basically going to be short, quick, and to the point, and basically talking about counties in every state with the most unoccupied properties. Now, obviously, the list I'm going to go over is just from my research. Obviously, do your own research when it comes to looking up areas with the most vacant properties and things of that nature. Do your cost-benefit analysis. Make comparisons, run your comps and all that good stuff, repairs, all that good stuff, and just ensure that somebody wants to live in these specific areas, even if it looks like the population might not be increasing at a rate that you want. You got to do your research. Obviously, I listen to a lot of YouTubers and everybody else does as well, but you can't take everything word for word. Everybody's experience is different. Everybody's way of doing business is different. So when it boils down to it, do your own research at the end of the day. Now, this basically came over an interesting article that I read the other day about unoccupied counties located within the United States of America. I thought it was actually interesting because it's stuff I usually don't think about from a vacancy perspective. Now, vacancies can serve as a huge drag on local housing markets by diminishing the quality of life and the value of nearby properties all at the same time. I just think that's really a no-brainer. They can also cost millions, and I mean millions, for policing, cleanup, or demolition. But one of the best things is that there is some sort of current or future opportunities because of great examples like Detroit, Michigan. And when it goes back to what the cost is, the cost can be at the taxpayers, because a lot of times cities, states, and federal government have to up the ante when it comes to the funding to ensure that the cities remain somewhat intact as a whole. Now, places like Detroit, Michigan was considered a wasteland, but now it's an investment mecca for all now. You got people coming from all over the world buying up real estate like it's going out of business in the city of Detroit. And that's how I know that. And you can go there yourself and just see how it's, how people are taking advantage of it, and guaranteed within the next 5 or 10 to 20 years, Detroit was never, well, I'm not gonna say never, but it won't look like it looked 5 or 10 years ago. So obviously do your own research, but a lot of things are happening in Detroit, so take advantage. If you're a fan of the Breakfast Club like I am, and you see people like Angela Yee and DJ Envy buying up real estate in Detroit, that says something. People from China and parts of the Middle East buying up areas in Detroit, that says a lot, so investors like us can not only make a profit from cheaper homes, because that's what I do, but we can help make the communities more vibrant as well, making sure that you're not a slumlord. Now, rural areas and small towns have seen vacancy rates nearly double those of metropolitan areas, especially in places like Appalachia, parts of the South, other parts of the Midwest, and the Great Plains areas. I'm not saying anything wrong with rural small town America. Living in a rural small town, if that's what your thing, there's nothing wrong with that. I always say, if you're happy with your life and you're proud of where you're from and where you're at, then go for it, because that's all that matters. It's your life. You got to be happy with it, But there are some small towns out there, just like the major cities, that are losing huge populations because there isn't a significant growing job market, and they don't have the best school districts. The crime rate might be high. Small town America, you have high crime rates just like you do in big cities across America. Only difference is the population isn't as huge as the big city is, But you have, with the resurgence of some areas, have seen vacancies return to pre-recession levels, while others have actually had far slower recovery. So some areas have recovered faster than most since the recession of 2007. But some places are plagued by what is called hyper-vacancy. Now, let's actually get into the areas that are seeing the highest vacancy rates within the largest cities in the United States of America. And according to Malich's study, tracks vacancy rates in about 10 large legacy cities, including places like Detroit and Cleveland, Ohio, 5 small legacy cities, including Flint, Michigan, and Gary, Indiana, 5 Sunbelt cities among cities like Atlanta, Georgia, Dallas, Texas, and 5 magnet cities, including San Francisco, Boston, and Washington, D.C. Places that we know, even as expensive as San Francisco is, being one of the most expensive cities in the United States of America, it's still a place that's overcrowded and a place that people still keep coming because why they have that crazy thing called great paying jobs. Boston's the same way. Washington, D.C., the DMV area where I'm from, it's the same way. When you have a place that has a great job market, you don't have a real vacancy issue, put it like that. But vacancies have increased by more than 80% with small legacy cities. Nearly 60% of large legacy cities between 2010 and today, compared to just 3% in Sunbelt cities, and a negative rate of 5% in magnet cities. So obviously, like I said, they're not having the issue in magnet cities like San Francisco, DC, and Boston. In New York City, they're not. The places are overcrowded. The worst number of areas with the hyper vacancy increase at 2.5% to more than 50% is obviously Flint, Michigan. Not a big surprise there, unfortunately, because due to the water crisis that happened there a couple of years ago. From 16% to more than 50% in Gary, Indiana, an area that's still very depressed economically because of obviously a lot of manufacturing jobs going away and things of that nature. And from 6% to 50% in Cleveland, Ohio, that's still a depressed city. However, one thing I will say, the part of Ohio I know is being gentrified is Cincinnati. So obviously I have to look into more of it, but I know that there's a lot of great things going on in Cincinnati, Ohio, from that perspective. Other places like states like Tennessee, they actually lead the pack with the highest share of vacant homes, which is a surprise at 2.65%, followed by closely but the state of Kansas, and this isn't a surprise, at 2.50%. In Oklahoma, this definitely isn't a surprise because my buddy has family in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's population is decreasing so bad to the point where they're actually paying people to come stay in the state. I believe you have to have like an online job. I remember hearing about this almost a year ago. Make a certain salary, and then they'll pay you a specific amount of money to stay there within that state a month. Even I believe Maine is doing that too. Places like Maine actually paying people's tuition off. Tennessee is actually offering free community college. And I think it's smart on all these states' part. You got to give incentive for people to come to your state. Even if you don't have the jobs like that, you got to do something else if you want people to come back to your state, because especially my generation, if we don't see jobs, we don't see opportunity, we're not going. We don't care how much we like the state. If we don't see opportunity, it's not going to happen. Or if we don't even see an environment where we can create opportunity, it's not happening. That's my little soapbox, but I'll leave it at that. And unfortunately, the number one state that has the highest vacancy rate which is one of the most poorest states in the union, is Mississippi, unfortunately. So now with a lot of these cities and states, they are becoming overpriced, or the water's poisoning, or they're just areas where it's just economically depressed, or just places that people just don't want to simply really reside in. And that's just something to just take into consideration, because even if a place has a great job market, cost of living is low or reasonable, some people just don't like living in that certain area. Great example, I've known many people that have come to the DMV area because they don't like living in Atlanta. I don't know why, but they just weren't feeling it. Even if they had a great job there and all that good stuff, they weren't feeling the Atlanta, Georgia area. I like Atlanta. I think it's a great city. But some people just don't like it. Like I like Houston, Texas. I think it's a great booming city. And a lot of people I know, they can't get a decent job there, or they do, but they just don't like it there. And it's that one of those things, different strokes for different folks. But in this context, obviously, we're talking about things from an investment perspective. Even places like Youngstown, Ohio, Baltimore, Maryland, or if you talk about places where I'm investing, Reading, Pennsylvania, Allentown, Pennsylvania, have had an uptick in home vacancies for the last 20 years, but the upside is current and new investors, for current and new investors is who are familiar with these markets can grow their real estate economic portfolios if they have the right mindset, if they have the right access to capital, and if they just have the right know-how to implement so they can execute a purchasing property. I like the fact that most major and smaller cities like Baltimore and Youngstown, you can find property that's not in good shape, but because of the stronger structure of the home foundation is more solid compared to the newer homes being built today. And you can purchase properties in these areas for the price of $2,000 to $20,000. And if you have enough capital to flip the properties to sell or rent, then it can become a win-win situation. My advice from my personal experiences is when you become an investor, to try to start a cheaper market then that has the potential to grow. So obviously do your homework, look at that market, and even if it doesn't look like it can grow, just look and see if it can cash flow to the point where people go, live there. They're going to pay their bills so you can get a monthly check, or if you can at least flip it, to get a little bit of a quick cash flow, then go for it. Do your homework, because, people are making money in Baltimore. People are making money in Ohio. People are making money in Michigan. So it's one of those things of don't believe all the hype that the media spews. You got to go do the research yourself. Even if you do not know anyone in these cheaper areas, try to do this crazy thing and just go to those areas and actually try to get to know people, because one thing I can say with sincerity is trying to be an entrepreneur and an introvert. It's not really going to work for you. It's easier to be an introvert if you have a job than being an introvert if you're an entrepreneur. You got to try to get to know people, think outside the box. It just comes with the territory. I myself am an introvert, but I know if I wanted to grow my businesses, I have to start engaging with people more and more. Get to know people. Because like I said, if you don't want to, then you're not really going to work out in this business. That's just my personal opinion. I know that stepping outside of your comfort zone can be a scarier thing, but my mindset has always been, and it always will forever be, is waking up in the same place that I don't want to be in 10 years from now is something I don't want to do. So it's worth it to step outside my comfort zone. And us as investors and wholesalers and anybody else in the real estate industry, that's what we have to do. We got to forever step outside of our comfort zone, do different things and try to learn something new every day, all at the same time, and not be afraid to fail. A lot of people are, and I just think that's just don't fail to the point where you're out on the street eating out of a garbage can. But if you fail because you don't look like you're intelligent enough and know what you're doing, then that's a whole nother story. Okay, so anyways, hopefully you guys like the video. Please like it, please share, definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel, and hey, got any wholesale deals in the DMV area, let me know. I'm always willing to open for business. I'm actually trying to close on this one property that's in Woodbridge, Virginia right now. So inbox me, or if you have my number, call me, and obviously I'll put the information out there all at the same time. And hey, have a good day and keep doing what you're doing, and don't let anybody tell you that you cannot get into this business and you can't make things happen. You got to have the mindset first, and everything else will come later. Take care.